Southeastern Wisconsin is full of artworks that connect our community and also preserve our culture. On this episode of the Arts Page, creative creatures are the specialty of Bayview artist Jef Raasch. Find out how his lifelong fascination with nature inspires his innovative ceramic sculptures. The Jewish Museum Milwaukee's popular and powerful exhibit, Stitching History from the Holocaust, has returned and includes 2 more compelling stories from families fleeing persecution. And learn how the Milwaukee Art Museum's Kohl's Color Wheels mobile art studio drives creativity in local communities. That's all coming up now on the Arts Page. Welcome to the Arts Page. I'm your host, Sandy Maxx, and we're on location at the Jewish Museum Milwaukee. Outside of the museum is this garden that provides a beautiful and peaceful surrounding for this memorial dedicated to the people who died in the Holocaust and honoring the courage and spirit of the survivors. Nature can be a strong force of inspiration for an artist. Ceramic sculptor Jef Raasch of Bayview has enjoyed exploring the outdoors since he was a boy, and now uses natural elements and animals to create human-like sculptures as a way to connect with the earth and with emotions.
To me, my pieces are 3-dimensional canvases. It's very fun to have these creature people. I think of them as ecosystems of all kinds of creatures coming together, making a bigger being, much like nature is. My name is Jef Raasch, and I'm a ceramic sculptor. Ever since I was a little kid, that was the thing that I really excelled at, is working with clay. It was plasticine back when I was a little kid. And I would just remember it was in 5th grade, I made a plasticine pig, and it was the best in the class. And so that's where I got my start. My work with clay involves building hollow forms. And so I construct the pieces with about 1 inch or 1/2 inch thickness all the way around, depending on how big they are. I really try to keep that about the same. It gets too thick, things happen, pieces crack. So each piece is built hollow, like a pot. I think if I was going to make just pieces that I want to make, they would be all life-size human sculptures. But I do try to supply different sizes for everybody else, so the average person can take a piece home with them. Variety is the spice of life. For a long time, I was stacking animals, just making sculptures of stacked animals. And I always wanted to work with the human form, but I wasn't sure exactly, if I started stacking human forms, it might get kind of grisly. And so one day, it clicked that, heck, I could make human forms by stacking animals. And that's what I did. When I start a piece, I work from photographs of, say, a human form, and I have images of that person in pose from 360 degrees, so images all the way around. And I make sure, I blow them up on my walls, and I use a calipers to get the measurements right, proportions right, and so that's where I start, is getting the human form correctly proportioned. It's difficult. It's something that if it's wrong, it's wrong. Very obvious to people, that the anatomy is wrong. You can fudge with animals. People just don't know, they don't pay as much attention. And so you have to do things with the human form to get it right. And if it isn't, at least to me, and I think I'm more picky because it's my work, but it needs to feel right. And then I sit back and think, well, what kind of an animal will fit in this muscle group to make this feel right? And so then that just kind of evolves, and I don't know exactly what it's going to be until it happens. Recently, my pieces have been very earthy colors. I use a lot of browns and greens and things that you can just find outdoors, find it in your own backyard, my backyard. But after a while, I get a little bored, and then I will go back and add color. My piece behind me here, you can see, is very colorful, and I have koi in my backyard. And so it's fun to change it up and add lots of color. Have always been drawn to nature. As a little kid, I would wander in the woods, catch creatures, just enjoy exploring and that stuff. And it's just something that's always kind of a longing to go back to. And so I find using nature in my work now is something that I can draw on and just continually explore nature and go from there. I have a product called wall spots, and they are faces that have a lot of fun with creating different expressions. And I like to have these groupings of faces and have them interact with each other. It's kind of, again, the ecosystem thought, but this time it's more emotional relationships between people. And my faces, which they're like little mini green men, and they again are taken from putting the human form and putting them back into nature. And so the leaf form is something that you find in the wild, and merge that with the human form and conversations with each other. Well, it's fun showing my pieces at art shows. You get a variety of people coming through, and it's fun to look at people's expressions as they look at my pieces. And quite often they laugh, or occasionally I've had people start crying in my booth over pieces. I think people have emotional reactions to my work because I think there's a longing, especially as urban dwellers, to feel the earth, to get back to it, to find something simpler, more natural, instead of the busy, crazy life that we live in with cell phones and mechanical things. It's an escape. It's a fantasy, and it's a place that, you know, people want to plunge into. I can't think of any other job that I'm qualified for than doing this. There is no choice. This is where I have to be.
You can experience the emotional impact and intricate details of Jef Raasch's nature-inspired sculptures at art fairs around Milwaukee and Madison and in Minneapolis, Minnesota throughout the year. See his 2018 calendar and browse more of his creatures and curiosities on his website, jefraasch.net. Stay tuned to find out about how the Milwaukee Art Museum has a free way for families to get creative together. But first, here in the atrium of the Jewish Museum Milwaukee, you'll find the newly expanded Stitching Histories from the Holocaust exhibit that first went on display in 2014. And husband and wife Paul and Hetty Strnad tried to get out of Nazi-occupied Czechoslovakia to their family here in Milwaukee. Their story would have been lost forever if Hetty Strnad's impressive dress designs hadn't been discovered decades later. In the Jewish Museum Milwaukee's current exhibit, you'll also learn the personal accounts of two more families, the Olsner-Schafers and the Spira Stearns, whose stories share similar themes of loss and legacy and the power of preservation.
preserving memory is critical to understanding where we are today. The Jewish Museum preserves and protects material that is relevant to the continuum of the Jewish experience and also explores and tells the story of the Jews of southeastern Wisconsin. The original exhibit, Stitching History from the Holocaust, we're excited to bring back this beloved exhibit, but also to be able to add and explore the stories of two more families who also were fleeing persecution and Nazi-occupied countries, and to explore kind of the connections between those stories with the added pieces. We're now calling it Stitching Histories from the Holocaust. This all started with material that was given to our founding director, Kathy Bernstein, who was then head of the Jewish archives, if you will. Burton Stranad had come across the material, opened the box, found a letter, a picture, and 8 dress renderings.
The letter was written in December of 1939, and it says, "My wife is a talented dressmaker. Can you help us get visas to come to this country?" And it was sent to a Milwaukee cousin, and the writer's name was Paul. His wife is Hetty. And despite this kind of continued connection with their Milwaukee cousin, Paul and Hetty weren't able to come here. And so all that we have left is this correspondence from them, and then the dress designs.
The fact that we were able to take these designs and work with this incredibly talented team at the Milwaukee Repertory Theater's costume shop to bring to life a dream that was never brought to fruition. It's a peek into all of the contributions, the talent that the world was deprived of with everything that was extinguished in the Holocaust.
Then on top of that, we learned about this collection of 13 postcards that had been sent to Racine, Wisconsin during World War II.
Michael Stern, who now lives out of town but grew up in Racine, had come across this trove of 13 postcards that had been written by his maternal grandmother, Sarah Spira, who decided not to come with her daughter and son-in-law to the United States because, like so many other Jews, she was convinced that the situation would blow over, and then ultimately she became trapped and couldn't get out, and then perished in the Holocaust.
This is another case of a mother who is left in Poland writing to her daughter and son-in-law who had escaped in 1938, and we only have her side of the correspondence. It's just a fascinating glimpse into what life would be like there at this horrific time. One thing that's interesting is they're postcards. They're not letters, and if you look at these postcards, it is unbelievable how much text she can get on one postcard, you know, because this is the one thing that she can get out, and so you're writing in as much as you possibly can in the tiniest hand. There's a real moment of empathy as you read through these, and even if you can't read the German, just looking at the handwriting and kind of how tightly cramped it is.
We can read what's in the postcards, but we also read in between the lines because they're all stamped with Nazi insignia, so we assume that there was censorship taking place. So there were things that she couldn't communicate. All the Jews in Germany at a certain point were rounded up and deported to Poland. So while she's not saying outright, "I'm being moved, forced to move by the Nazis," we understand that the situation is getting worse and worse and worse. So there have been some hypotheses about what Sarah's fate ultimately was. We do know that she perished. We don't know the specifics of the circumstances surrounding that.
Through our archives, we acquired this really amazing collection. And it belonged to a lady who spoke for years through the Holocaust Education Resource Center Speakers Bureau. Her name is Edie Schaefer. And Edie would share her experience of being born and growing up in the Shanghai ghetto. Her parents had escaped from Germany in 1939, and they went to Shanghai because that was literally the only place in the world you could get to without a visa.
Her mother, Gerda, saved this body of material that details the journey and all the hardships and the challenges. They eked out this life for themselves. They established ultimately a cigar, tobacco, and cigarette store. Edie was born there in 1941, so she had dual citizenship with the documents and the artifacts to be able to flesh out this story and really paint this very vivid picture of what their existence must have been like in Shanghai, and then ultimately how they were able to get visa with the help of sponsorship from people in the Jewish community in Milwaukee to come to the United States. There's a very long and rich history of Jewish culture in China. One of the things we have on display are the high holiday cards from attending, Rosh Hashanah or Yom Kippur services in the Shanghai ghetto. It had to have been just a shock, a culture shock in so many ways. We also have a 23 by 6 foot timeline, which we're really excited about because it gave us an opportunity to integrate the narratives of the three families. So the top component really speaks to the individual families, and the entire bottom portion is contextualizing. So we're looking at, what were the historical events that impacted the journeys of these families? What were the immigration policies?
With stories of the Holocaust, you get this sense of, okay, well, they were moved from here to here, and then we don't know. And that not knowing has to be part of the story, but it also has to be on some level that it's more important that they were these people.
History comes to life through personal stories, and it's through the artifacts and the stories that we are able to make these narratives, these displays, so resonant. And being able to share that information, to provide those type of insights, is really an honor to us.
The artifacts from the Stitching Histories from the Holocaust exhibit are on display through September of 2018. The postcards, written by Sarah Spira, will then be acquired by the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum in Washington, D.C. And the original Stitching History from the Holocaust exhibit will travel to Pennsylvania, Alabama, and Maryland. Get more information to plan your visit to the Jewish Museum Milwaukee at their official website, jewishmuseummilwaukee.org. In addition to Hedy Sternad's fashion designs, also on display at the Jewish Museum Milwaukee is this jumper by renowned children's fashion designer Florence Eisman. Based here in Milwaukee, Eisman's children's clothing defined the look of the American child starting in the 1950s and is still a high-quality brand name. Kids tend to have imaginative ways to express themselves, sometimes in what they wear or in what they create. And parents and kids here in southeastern Wisconsin can make their own artwork together through the Kohl's Color Wheels. The Milwaukee Art Museum brings this mobile art studio with free art activities to events throughout the community all year round.
We can go anywhere and bring art projects to families. We can go to school cafeterias, to parks, really any location, and set up a really fun and authentic art experience. Kohl's Color Wheels is Milwaukee Art Museum's off-site studio program. This program goes to local community events throughout the Milwaukee area, and we visit over 100 sites per year. So we visit school and community festivals, and we bring free art activities to families.
Nice job.
We're always creating art activities inspired by Milwaukee Art Museum's permanent collection and feature exhibitions. And we're using all different kinds of media. So you could stop by Kohl's Color Wheels and try printmaking, painting, sculpture, or any number of art projects. All of The activities at Kohl's Color Wheels are drop-in, and they're geared towards families with kids 12 and under. And it's really fun for the whole family, so kids and their parents are invited to participate. Kohl's Color Wheels is part of the Kohl's Art Generation program at Milwaukee Art Museum. And this is a partnership between the museum and Kohl's Cares. And Kohl's Cares has been involved with the museum since 2008, and they've made a $6.3 million commitment to the museum. And it's just really a great way for families to spend time together and learn about art.
Yeah, it looks good.
The great thing about Kohl's Color Wheels projects is they're all free. So you just drop in, you can try one project or you can try more than one. With the Kohl's Color Wheels program, the projects are always changing. We'll always highlight some of our feature exhibitions, which change 3 or more times a year, but then we're also diving deeply into our permanent collection. During the school year, when we're visiting school events, sometimes we'll find out what's going on at that event and try to customize a project particularly for it. And then during the summer, we tend to focus on our big summer feature exhibition. So this summer, we're focusing on Milwaukee Art Museum's feature exhibition, Van Gogh to Pollock, Modern Rebels. So in this exhibition, you see some of the most famous and beloved artists in the world. So Van Gogh, Jackson Pollock, Matisse, and we're making art activities inspired by these artists.
Yeah.
So you can learn about Van Gogh and how he painted from nature and make your own landscape painting.
You just have to have fun, that's the most important part.
We're also looking at Matisse and his intricately patterned still life arrangements. You can make your own patterned still life arrangement.
Are you gonna make a pattern on this side? Yeah.
And also you can have a chance to try action painting like Jackson Pollock. So we've got a long canvas on the ground, and you can, just like Jackson Pollock, use unusual tools and your whole arm movement in creating a painting. It's really fun. And then a bonus is you get to learn more about art, art making, and art history.
I'm gonna sit here. Is that fun?
It's not just for kids, parents can take part too. So it's a great family experience, and kids get to learn at the same time.
I think it's beautiful.
We have a full team of really great art educators that are museum staff, and so they learn all about the collection. They're all makers themselves, and they have a passion for working with family audiences.
So it's really fun seeing kids just click.
I think part of what makes Kohl's Color Wheels important to the community is it's totally free. It's fun, and it's a great way to introduce families to art. We love making art with families off-site, out in the community. We also really want to encourage them to visit us on-site and see some of these works of art in person and develop a love of art. I think enjoying art together is a really great way for families to spend time together. Families can have great conversations about art. When they make things side by side, they can learn a lot about each other as well as learn about the artworks in the museum's collection. For kids developmentally, they have a chance to really develop fine motor skills, to test things out, to experiment, to problem solve. So it's really very beneficial. My favorite part of Kohl's Color Wheels is having a chance to take aspects of Milwaukee Art Museum's collection out into the community. It's really fun that we can go anywhere. We can set up in a school cafeteria, or we can set up outside next to the lake. It's really fun to introduce different artists to families, introduce different materials. You know, we're always using beautiful and authentic materials, things that artists themselves use. And it's just fun to see families enjoy that time together while making art. Families just love it. They can't believe it's free. And we really love seeing families out in the community and then having them visit us later at Milwaukee Art Museum. We always hope families learn something new about art, something new about making, and are inspired to keep looking and keep making.
Look for the Kohl's Color Wheels van at Summerfest and all around the Milwaukee area. You can find the full schedule of their drop-in art locations at the website tinyurl.com/Kohl's Color Wheels. A special thanks to everyone at the Jewish Museum Milwaukee for their hospitality and their commitment to preserving the important stories of the Jewish community here in southeastern Wisconsin. And what do you think of the art and artists you've seen on the Arts page? We'd love to hear from you. Please call us at 414-797-3760 with your feedback and your story ideas. If you can't wait to see another episode of the Arts page, you can go online and stream our previous episodes and learn more about our show at the Milwaukee PBS website at milwaukeepbs.org and click on the Arts page. You can find Milwaukee PBS on Facebook too. I'm Sandy Maxx. Thank you for watching, and please join us next time for another half hour full of art on the Arts page.